Season 2 of the hit zombie drama, The Walking Dead, premiered last night. As usual, the man known as Daryl was right in the middle of the action with crossbow in hand, and we're so lucky to have the actor who portrays Daryl, Norman Reedus, here with us today. So, thanks for being on the show, Norman.
Yeah,
you are such a huge star. People love you on this show. Tell us about your character, Daryl. Interesting guy, not the most popular.
He's not the most popular with the group, but he's the kind of guy that can protect you. He can hunt for his own food. He's sort of in his element when fighting the walkers and so forth, but he's not really emotionally stable. Like I keep telling everybody, he's like a guy that needs a hug, but if you try to hug him, he'll try to stab you. You know what I mean? So,
really? You would say that Daryl needs a hug and that's his problem?
Well, I mean, it's one of his many problems, but he's not very socially
But he is
skilled.
one of the most important people in the group as far as hunting goes, right?
Right, I mean, he hunts with a crossbow, so it's quiet and efficient, but he's definitely a valuable member of the group, for sure.
Crossbow. There's nothing cooler than that. Killing zombies with a crossbow.
Yeah, you can't not look cool holding a crossbow. Yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
I love it. It's my favorite job I've ever had. Yeah. It's a blast.
You recently, you told me actually right before we started taping that in every character in a movie you've played, you've killed somebody. Is that true?
At least one, yeah. I mean, at least one person.
That's a record. Is that like
yeah.
in your contract?
No, but my mom keeps saying, why don't you do a nice little romantic comedy with Jennifer Love Hewitt? And I'm like, Mom, they don't put me in those movies.
Would you want to do that?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe?
Possibly.
Okay,
yeah.
And you said you have a 12-year-old son that you allow to watch this show?
Yeah, I do. His name's Mingus, and he watched it last night at a friend's house, sort of I was holding him like this, but he kind of watched like this the whole time.
Is he a little scared?
Yeah. He was a little scared, but I woke him up this morning and took him to school and asked him if he had nightmares, and he said he didn't.
And
so
he liked it?
He actually loved it.
He must have thought, my dad's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, and I think he's getting props with the older kids in his school because they really like the character, so I think he kind of has some older buddies now at school.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah.
All right, so season 2 started last night, and fans going crazy over this. Do you follow the fans at all? Do you follow the message boards and what they're saying about the show?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, there's so many message boards now, it's hard to keep up. But, I mean, we did like a live sort of online thing, and I tried to read, the comments, but they were just moving so fast, I didn't really...
There's a lot.
I couldn't focus, yeah.
Well, tell me what happens with Daryl in season 2.
You get to find out a little bit about his backstory and what makes him so angry, and growing up with a big brother like Merle on the show, who's just the worst kind of person. You can imagine him isolated and not really being able to express himself and get along with other people. But you see him forming allies with people you wouldn't necessarily see him forming allies with on the show, and you see him taking leadership roles by himself and really going out and on missions and doing things his way. So. It's an interesting mix, what happens.
Speaking of Merle, the big brother, is he going to reappear? That's what everyone wants to know. In this season, does he come back?
I can't tell you that.
You can't tell us that?
All my bosses will be watching this. I'll be bitten by a zombie.
Okay, so to be continued on that.
Correct.
But the creator of the comic book, Robert Kirkman, said that this season, amongst all, the shots are much gorier than ever. We interviewed John Bernthal, your colleague, last week. He agreed. What would you say about the gore?
I think, we have Greg Nicotero who does our special effects, and he's an Emmy Award-winning genius at that. But the thing about how he makes our zombies is you see the person that the zombie used to be in the zombies. So, you see this sad sort of shell of that human that was once there. So there's a sadness there as well. So infection and so forth. So,
that's a really interesting take on it. The show is a lot more complicated than just shooting zombies, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's sort of like the zombies aren't really the threat. I mean, they are, but it's more who's next to you and who you can form allies with and who's going to mess you over to get ahead and leave you for dead. So you have these tight groups of people trying to survive like this. So all these different emotions and situations happen within the group. It's pretty complex.
So there's some universal themes that sort of go on in this as well. I'm just curious if you were a fan of comic books and of horror movies when you were growing up.
Well, I mean, like George Romero films and, certain comic books. I didn't really know this comic book when I started. I mean, I got into it once I got the job, but I've always been a fan of horror films, and I like sort of offbeat horror films like Attack of the Colossal Man and The 50-Foot Woman and, strange stuff like that.
Killer Tomatoes.
Well, yeah, The Blob. I like The Blob.
Well, The Walking Dead, it airs Sunday nights on AMC. Norman Reedus, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being with us. Congratulations on your success, too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been fun. Yeah.